Now, mac and cheese, welcome to Steve's Kitchen, by the way. I asked a few days ago what would be the best mac and cheese for you. Now, if you don't follow me on Facebook or Google+, get across there and like the pages so that you get that sort of information and you can get involved in the community. The feedback I'm getting, and I totally agree with, is mac and cheese should be not too dry, should have that lovely elastic cheese in there, and it should be not too stodgy and floury. Absolutely agree, 100%. Now, in order to make that stringiness, you want a good mozzarella. This is an Australian-made mozzarella cheese, and something a little sharper to add some flavor. I've got a good quality cheddar here as well. Now, for the topping, I'm going to be putting a nice breadcrumb, but we're going to be using also a smoked pancetta to get all that flavor in the topping. Come on, let's get and make the best mac and cheese you've ever had. Let's go. The first thing we want to do is get a pot of water on the stove and bring it up to a boil, but you need to season that water. Now, with pasta, it's important to put plenty of salt into the water. If you don't, and don't forget, this is not going to absorb into the pasta, but it will flavor the pasta. So make sure your water is well seasoned. When the water comes up to the boil like that, we're going to add 2.5 cups. That's about 250 grams or 8 ounces of macaroni. We just bring that up to a simmer and we're going to cook that for about 6 minutes. A little bit undercooked I want it because it's going to bake in the oven. And when that's cooked, we're going to drain the water off. I'm going to pop it into a baking dish like this. But now let's get on and make our macaroni cheese sauce. Now, one of the things people say to me is the sauce gets too floury. We do need some flour in our bechamel sauce or our white sauce. We're going to put about 30 grams, that's about 1 ounce of salted butter. And I'm also going to put 30 grams, 1 ounce of all-purpose flour. Now, we don't want the floury flavour in our sauce, so we need to take this over to the stove. We want to cook this through so the flour changes its flavour. So by heating that butter and flour on the stove, we can cook off that unwanted flour taste. Now, as the butter and the flour meld down in the pot like this, I'm actually looking for a little change in colour, a slight golden brown to the flour. Now, quickly, while that flour and butter is cooking there, this pancetta is smoked. It's absolutely delicious, and I'm going to be using a little bit of this to flavour my white sauce. So I'm just cutting a piece off. I'm probably going to use about 1 ounce again, cut into small cubes. Now, my butter and flour have been cooking for a couple of minutes there. I'm going to add my pancetta in there and start to cook that through and let the oils release from the pancetta. You don't have to use pancetta, but if you haven't, maybe use a bacon of some sort. Now, the pancetta has started to release its flavours. I'm just going to season this with a little bit of salt and a little bit of black pepper. And next, we're going to take a splash of cold milk. Now, I've got a whisk here as well. I want to add the milk a little bit at a time and just whisk. And you'll notice that it gets very thick. And we just keep adding a little bit of milk, bringing it back up to temperature and whisking it until we get a lovely thick sauce. Now, I've added about 3 cups, that's about 750 mils of milk into this. And I've brought it up to the boil each time, so I've got a lovely, rich, thick sauce. Now we have to add our cheese. Now, if you taste that sauce now, it's going to taste great just as it is, but we've got to add cheese into it. This, after all, is a mac and cheese. I'm going to use about a pound or 450 grams of a mozzarella because I want that lovely stringiness. And then I'm going to use about half of that of a sharp cheddar. This cheddar is a delicious Australian cheddar. It's really sharp. And we don't need to grate it. You can just take the cheeses and cut them up into small blocks. They'll melt pretty quickly in that hot sauce. So back over at the stove, I've got my mozzarella. I know this is a lot of cheese, but like I told you, this is going to be the best mac and cheese you've ever tasted. Pop the mozzarella in there, and on top of the mozzarella, that lovely sharp cheddar. And on a low simmer, we're just going to continue to stir this through until the cheese is absorbed into the sauce. Now, that's why I don't bother grating it in. Look, that's only been a minute or so. It's started to melt in. It's not quite fully melted yet, but look at the lovely stringiness to this sauce. That is going to be so perfect for our mac and cheese. And when that's completely melted down, we'll get this over to the macaroni and get it ready to go in the oven. Now, before we put our sauce in, it's really important that you don't overfill your dish with the macaroni. It is so thirsty, it will soak up all that sauce and it'll become very dry. And now we're going to take that wonderful, rich, look at that sauce. I'm going to pour the whole sauce in there. Now, it might look like a lot of sauce for this mac and cheese, but it's why this is going to be so delicious. Then I'm just going to take my whisk and I want to spike the macaroni cheese so that some of that sauce gets down into the macaroni holes. So you see all the little bubbles coming up, that's the macaroni filling up with the cheese. We're going to pop this in the oven for about 30 minutes or so on 180 degrees Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit. And I like to see a little browning on top, and then I'm going to put a breadcrumb and a little bit of bacon over the top to get a crispy top. Now I'm just going to put a couple of tablespoons of olive oil into a frying pan or skillet. And there's a reason why I put my breadcrumb on later. I'll explain that to you in a moment. I've just popped some pancetta in there, start to fry that through. A knob of butter as well. I'll just let that melt in. Now as that comes up to heat, I'm going to put about a cup, maybe a little over, of breadcrumbs. This is just fresh breadcrumbs from home. Just going to let them get coated with the fats from the fried bacon. I'm also going to put a little bit of dried parsley in there. You can use fresh parsley, of course. Now I don't want to cook this too long, just a few moments to get all the flavors mixed together. This wonderful crumb is going to go on top of our mac and cheese, and it is going to make it fantastic. Now look at that. That is why I don't put the crumbly top on first, because I want that caramelized top over my mac and cheese. That is where all the flavor is. Now I can put the crumble on top of that. So we're going to have a double whammy. We're going to have this wonderful crunchy top, which I'm just going to pop back in the oven for about 10 minutes until it's golden brown. Now look at that. There, can you see that bubbling away? There is my mac and cheese. Now I would let that sit for about 15 minutes or so on the side before I serve it, because it's going to be roasting hot at the moment. And I wish you could smell what's coming off there now. It's so delicious. The smoked bacon's coming through, the cheese, the mozzarella. Now I can't wait anymore. I'm going to give this a try. Let's get a piece from this corner here. Got myself a dish. Will you look just how beautiful and stretchy that is? It's not dry at all. Maybe a little bit of parsley just on the top there, and I'm going to give this a go. Here goes my perfect mac and cheese. Look at that. That is absolutely delicious. I've never been a major fan of mac and cheese, but when it's like this, it really is great. Give this a try at home. Please share the love. Give this one a thumbs up. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. So I hope you like my take on mac and cheese. Of course, I'll leave links to other videos here. I'd love to hear your comments down below. If you like this, if you try it, and don't forget, get across to the Google Plus and the Facebook page. Say hello there too as well. Be good. I'll see you next time. Take care.